came forth from the Father and have come into the world. Again I leave the world and go to the Father. That, under our own mode, can be said of every soul that comes for a while to this planet and goes on. Here, however, it is of a different order. The incarnation, the taking on of time and flesh by the second person, and then the returning to his former place with his trophies, the glorious wounds that perhaps he showed to the underworld, to Adam and the just in waiting. I have conquered. But each soul given this ticket to ride for about 80 odd years has also that journey to make, homeward bound. Yesterday I had a lovely surprise. A little child came in with a tiny sister, and the little child was completely dressed as a bride. That morning, here in Navan, she had just made her first Holy Communion, and she still had wings and beams, still homeward bound. In that particular situation, I was genuinely happy, because that particular travelling family has great faith, and she's safe. Alas, how many can say that at their first communion right now in Ireland? When will be the next communion? Perhaps their confirmation. And on it goes. That's all for children. We bracket it with Santa Claus. And yet. This week, I was thinking about how Our Blessed Lady is hurt. It is her month, and it is still kept in this land. When I was not far from here, in the by now closed Kilnacrot Abbey, she was very much a part of our life. All-night vigils, every first Saturday. Usually about 800 people there, many from the north, praying at that time for peace because there was a genuine danger of something awful. And heaven actually listened. But things would happen in the depth of night. Lots of things. Things that the simple people understood. Maybe I've told you this before. I don't think I have, but I'll tell you it again. They're the bits that people remember. One day, in the heart of night, after the midnight mass, we were going out with the big statue of Fatima that was in the monastery, and we were going to feast her in the calm of night with the Holy Rosary which she asked for at Fatima. Every day! The one thing she said 6 times, each time she asked for 5 decades of the Rosary every day. And if we're too busy for that, we're too busy constructing our own spirituality where we are at the driving wheel. Anyway, the prior, still alive, was a good Marian man, and he knew what touched heaven and what touched the people. He wanted us to have blessed white handkerchiefs and to wave them between the decades as we sang Ave, Ave, Ave Maria, and so on. And also to be lifting up the little candles that we were carrying. And do you know, heaven replied. Every time we did that, do you know what happened? A beautiful odour of incense come roses came back. The the little people got the message. She was with us and she was pleased. But it didn't stop there. I was only a novice, and so I was right next to the statue. And I noticed that 4 strong men before me were having a job. We were starting off, and after a few minutes, I noticed something happening. It was something like this. Bizarre. And 800 people waiting for the processions to move on. Eventually, it did. About a quarter of an hour later, again, stopping, but this time, the one in charge looked behind to one of the strong men behind him and said in good Irish, "Do you find this yoke terribly heavy?" And he did. They got their act together and carried on. Eventually we got down to the grotto, which is still there, first thing you find when you get to the monastery. And we prayed and sang hymns to Our Lady, and I think actually we crowned her. Doesn't matter anyway. It was all there, and hundreds of people, and something strange happened. At a certain point, towards the end of the devotions, but we were still in prayer, we all felt a huge cushion of unearthly peace enveloping us. Eventually we got back. The night went on in prayer and adoration. And when all this great multitude had gone away in their various buses and cars, I was alone with the prior, the organizer, and perhaps one other person, just for a few minutes, catching up on the news of the night. And the prior came out with this. There was a little boy there, and he came up to me at the end, and he said this to me: "Father Prior, you know where the statue was? We had a job to move on. I saw on it a beautiful, beautiful lady. And it happened there too." That was the second point. And then, when we got down to the bottom, as we were coming to the end of our devotions, I saw her again. She was on a cloud, looking down on us with a wonderful, beautiful smile, blessing us and glad to have us there. And then she disappeared. Wow, I thought. Heaven is closer to earth than we think. Eventually, the abbot called me apart and said to me, "We're sending you to Rome." So, off I went, and then came back in the summer holidays. Somebody picked me up at the airport and said this to me: "We have something happening here in Ireland right now. There is a statue doing things." With permission, I went down to see it, and it was this. Now, there were 2 pictures that she took. One, you could see the eyes, as you can here, completely bloodshot. But then the second picture, which is the one I have here, framed, the same picture exactly, and no flash, and no sun, nothing different, but there was an explanation on it, precisely from its author. You can't see it from a distance, but I'll tell you what's on it. Over the Immaculate Heart has appeared the host. And without a word being said, Our Lady was explaining why those tears of blood were in her eyes. It's in Grange Comm, I think it's County Wicklow. Mary, the Lady of the Post, has died since, but I met her daughter not long ago. I said to my friend, "It's also been happening in Italy, you know, in front of all the country." Our Lady was misbehaving. There was a statue which had started to weep blood, and the bishop in Civitavecchia was not amused. "Can I have a look at that statue?" "Thank you." And off he went with it. He was going to analyze it or something of the sort. It started to weep blood in his hands. Ooh, caught. A bishop can't remain hidden. And so, Human, the bishop of Civitavecchia, a few days later found himself being looked at on Rai Uno, at prime time viewing, the main news program at 8 o'clock in the evening, with 50 million people looking at him, wanting to know what happened at Civitavecchia. So he was caught and had to go through the analysis, and he did. And what was the surprise of those 50 million people when they found out what was in there? Yes, the scientists had found that it was human blood. But, and this is the puzzling bit, it was male blood. And those same 50 million people were very puzzled. What does that mean? Well, can you figure out what it means? Is it perhaps a gentle hint that our Blessed Lady feels every time the blood that her Son got from her is offended? And it's happening all over this planet that they can see. Abuse of the Blessed Sacrament. The angels weep as so many of these children are obliged, I say, to put out their hands to receive the Lord of hosts, standing as mate to mate, without being told that this is the presence of their Maker. It's holy bread, it's blessed bread, nothing about transubstantiation. Can you see where that's leading for the church of tomorrow? Where is the faith? It's not just human, my friends. There's a force in this, a satanic, ugly force, which hates the God of gods and Lord of lords, who has no shield but ours to protect him. That is the greatest gift he left when he went back to glory. We have it on our altars until the end of time. I'd invite you who are free to celebrate that return to heaven on Thursday, the day actually given in Scripture itself, 40 days, when he returned to heaven. We will have a solemn Mass here in Latin at 1 o'clock as on a Sunday. It can't be to them because there's an impediment, but there will be Mass here this Thursday to celebrate that event of the returning, conquering King.
Oremus in aeternum Sanctissimum Sacramentum. Laudate Dominum omnes gentes, laudate Eum omnes populi. Quoniam confirmata est super nos misericordia eius, et veritas Domini manet in aeternum. Gloria Patri et Filio, et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Adoremus in aeternum Sanctissimum Sacramentum.